Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode at the Glass Podcast. I'm your host, along with my co-host George the Greek over here. How you doing, George?
Ella, opa!
He's already getting involved, as we say, and then we also have a special guest. We'll call him Ryan the Wanderer, and this is great because he doesn't know a whole lot about sports, and so he can put his input from the side here when he's got a question or anything related to college football playoffs. So I think it's going to be an interesting one. And so we might be a little late for this week's just because the playoffs have been announced, but here we are. So as we get involved, George, what are you sipping on at the moment?
Oh, I'm getting involved in St. Arnold's Art Car IPA, and it's beautiful, and I can't wait to get involved in the show.
As always, Art Car by St. Arnold's is a delicious IPA. As for me, I'm drinking on some vitamin T, some tequila, El Tequilino. It's one of my favorites right now. It's about $25 off the shelf, additive free for those who are all want additive free tequila. Great sipper, great mixer. Can't do you wrong. So with that being said, here we go for the college football playoffs. It is set, George. Do you agree with the committee's selection with the teams that have made the playoffs?
Well, before I put my take in, I will do. Yeah, here it comes, guys. Everyone knows it's coming. Go Irish! Go Irish!
Yeah, that's painful. That's probably why our viewership doesn't exist because of that one song.
No. That's why they exist. Hey, look. I loved it. I agree with all the 12 teams. I 100% do. I don't agree with where a lot of teams went, but this whole process was great. We've had nothing but the last 6 weeks, basically, about college football and where teams are going and where they're not going, and is this game bigger than this one, and all that. And I think it was great. But ultimately I agree with the final 12 teams? I do. What about you, Mark?
I'm on board with it. I know people are griping, SMU shouldn't be in because they lost, but that was only their second loss of the season. Bama had 3 losses. Those 2 out of 3 losses were essentially bad losses to not a good OU football team this year and a Vanderbilt team who ended up finishing, I think, 500 or 7-6 or somewhere around there. Bowl eligible, great for Vanderbilt football program. But overall, 3 losses, and you look at the rest of the only 3-loss team in the playoff is Clemson, but that's because they won the ACC Conference Championship game against SMU. So I'm okay with it. We'll see how some of these other schools play out, like Indiana, with their 1 loss when their only one really strong opponent was Ohio State. I'm not sold on Penn State. James Franklin can't win big games, so but they're in because they, got to the Big Ten championship game and played against Oregon and were close with them until late in the second half. I say late, halfway through the third, and Oregon pulled away. So.
Well, okay, before we dive in, I'm going to look at a lot of teams objectively in terms of where they got put. And look, number one, and this for a lot of listeners out there, they're not going to like this. They're not going to like to hear this, but are you guys kidding me? Alabama fans, are you guys kidding me? You think you deserve to be in? And your athletic director came out and said, hey, we have to judge our schedule and make it, they have to, their strength of schedule needs to be better or harder. Your out of conference schedule for as long as I could remember, even with old St. Nick running the program, which, hey, great respect to him. That dude is the best of all time. But even Nick Saban scheduled Citadel and has had a conference. I mean, this year you guys had a beat up Oklahoma team. You guys had who? Mercer, was it? I mean, you guys lost 3 games. I get it. You're Alabama. You feel like you deserve to be in it, but no. This year you lost 3 games. I'm sorry it happened. I think your new coach is going to be great, and I think next year you guys are going to do better. But for this year, no, sir. It's not going to happen. And quite frankly, I don't think it should have happened. I think the team splitting hairs were Alabama, Ole Miss, and
South Carolina.
So all 3 didn't get in. So
And Miami.
Yeah, Miami didn't get in. Right? So yeah, I'm okay with the 12 teams, and I just watched the Pony Express tonight, actually, on ESPN 30 for 30. Is one of these old school situations. And, hey, good for SMU. Good for SMU. Do I think the committee got it right? Yeah, I do. Does Alabama have a gripe of, are we arguably one of the 12 best teams? I could sit here and look at the list of 12, and I could tell you Alabama would lose probably half those games, if not 75% of them, unless they're on a neutral field. So I think the committee got it right. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah. Again, we wouldn't be having this conversation if it was still 4 teams, because they wouldn't have been in the picture to begin with. Since it expanded to 12 teams, there's always going to be a gripe when you expand to 16 or 12 is not enough. Well, let's do 32. Whoever's the last 2 teams on the outside, not in those last seeds, always going to be the ones griping of why they should be in that. But realistically, if you're looking at previous time when it was 4 teams, Bama wouldn't be in the picture at all. But by expanding it, it does allow now, because you have every team that's in the playoffs all with 2 losses, except for Oregon, who is undefeated, and Notre Dame with 1 loss. But all the other schools, and Boise State only has 1 loss, but all the other schools have 2 losses for the most part. But either way, you're going to have a gripe for the teams that are on the outside looking in. And I'm okay with who they put in there for this first go-around of 12 teams. As you said, it gives Alabama to work towards next season with the new coach in a second year and getting players in there and winning games that you should win. That way you don't have to sit here and wait and hope you get in.
Well, I'm okay with the 12 teams that got in. Now, how these guys got seeded, I really don't know. It's very interesting.
As to see, I know you and I were talking earlier. Are you saying that Notre Dame should be like the 5th seed where Texas is at, or to what extent are you saying on the seeding?
No, everyone here knows I'm a Notre Dame homer, but we're gonna go beyond this, okay? Because I love college football. Oregon is the number 1 team in the country. And yeah, they're going to get a first round bye. But they're going to get rewarded with the winner of Ohio State playing Tennessee. Are you guys kidding me with this? So the number 1 team in the country that should arguably get awarded the easiest path, so to speak, to the final game, to the national championship, in their first game, and they get a bye, so, technically, I guess, a second game, whatever you want to call it, they're going to get Ohio State or Tennessee. Then you look up at Texas, they get Clemson, which, okay, a lot of people will agree that Clemson shouldn't have been in, but they did win their conference championship. But it's Clemson and their pedigree, And then you look down the line, Penn State. Mark, who does Penn State get?
The Pony Express.
And as much as I absolutely love, I mean, I'm so happy SMU got in over Alabama or Miami or whoever else. Good for SMU to be back in big time college football. You know, they have to go to Happy Valley and play Penn State, you know. And then the winner of that game gets Boise State. So this is all ironic to me, and me being a Notre Dame homer, I would think we would have been in either Texas's or Penn State's slot based on how we finished the year.
Because y'all finished, what, second overall? Or, I mean, I'll pull it up right now, but I was just curious.
No, please pull it up because I felt we should have finished second overall because all the teams in front of us lost.
Yes, but according to them, yeah, Notre Dame fifth, the committee. So, and I guess that goes to Notre Dame not playing a conference championship game is probably what they looked at. So
yeah, so even that teams that lost got rewarded for playing in a conference championship, and and that's something that the athletic director of Notre Dame is probably going to need to address, or maybe they didn't want to address because, look, the reality is this: if you look at Notre Dame's spot, they're playing an interstate rivalry game against Indiana that they haven't played in forever. And then night game in South Bend, Indiana. And it's not on the Saturday slot. It's on the Friday slot. It's going to be the only game played. So all the eyes of college football, of the initial college football playoff, is going to be at Notre Dame. How fitting is that, right? We're pretty much college football is born. It's going to be in South Bend, Indiana, and it's going to be great. Indiana is a tough team, and Notre Dame cannot take them lightly, but in terms of a talent level, they are talently better across the board. So if Notre Dame handles their business, they're going to move on. But then, their reward is Georgia, Yeah, so it's not an easy task.
No, but watching Georgia this past week against Texas, good for them knocking off Texas to win the SEC championship. But Georgia's a very beatable team. As you can tell, they've lost 2 games in the season as well. And I don't know if they officially rolled out Georgia's quarterback to his elbow injury, but they're going to be with him. And so I know that changes the dynamic of their offensive play calling and how they run the offense. But Georgia's still a solid team, and it's going to be a fun game. I do think Notre Dame plays some good football, be close against Indiana. If you look at, like I said, Indiana, their schedule overall, their one big game, they got demolished by Ohio State. But they did beat Michigan, who did beat Ohio State as well. So Indiana's not going to be taken lightly, so they're going to put up a good fight. It's going to be a good game, especially on Friday, and so, or Saturday, you said, right? Or Friday, yeah. Friday. So it's next Friday. So yeah, it's going to be fun in South Bend on a Friday night. Basically a rival game, like I said, in-state rivalry. So
that doesn't happen very often.
No, unless you schedule them on just to play for Notre Dame's sake, because they don't play a conference game, but for them just to play in general. So, but yeah, I say Notre Dame handles their business, and I would say they move on and go face the Bulldogs the following week or when that happens.
Well, when I look at the paths from what I saw, what the committee laid out, Penn State has the best path. They really do. Who's Penn State playing first?
SMU.
Yeah, so they're gonna play the Pony Express in Happy Valley when it's gonna be cold as. Have you looked at the weather temperatures? It's not gonna be friendly. They have to go up there, play Penn State. Then they will get, I think, what is it, Boise State?
Winner gets Boise State.
in a neutral spot. And then they'll get the winner of presumably, Notre Dame, Georgia, or Indiana, Georgia. Penn State has a good spot. And guys, Georgia's wounded. Their quarterback is out. So outside of Penn State, Notre Dame has the next best path, so to speak, because, well, if they get through Indiana, they get Georgia with starting quarterback down. And Goldberg is going to make sure that his defense, that is already strong, is going to give the backup fits. So, I mean,
Yeah. Going back with Penn State. So next weekend, it's going to be cold, showing high 29 degrees, but no snow or anything, just cold football weather. So I think SMU holds their ground, at least in the cold weather. Going back to what I said earlier, for Penn State, they do have an easy path, like you were saying. I mean, SMU won't be, you don't take them lightly. They can move the ball on offense. But I was saying, for Franklin being there at Penn State, it seems like he can't win the big games, kind of like Ryan Day at Ohio State. So, but being at Penn State for this first game, I can see him getting up, ready, and playing some good football to get them in a position to win, so they can go face Boise State in the next round at a neutral site. So, but we'll see. Like I said, I'm not sold on Franklin, but I guess he can prove me wrong next weekend, and when they take on the Pony Express, which I did see. I think Pony Express QB, he's still going to play, but he did enter the transfer portal. I did see that. So
was it starting?
I think it was the SMU starting quarterback enter the transfer. He can still play, but he's in the transfer portal. I could be wrong, but I believe it's their starting quarterback. So
Funny how his team's going to believe in him up in Happy Valley, knowing that, hey, you're gonna play with us today, but you're gone tomorrow. I mean, look, Ryan Day's record at Ohio State in the Big Ten is something crazy. God knows how many wins, but he only has 5 losses. 4 of them to Michigan. You know what I mean? Ryan Day wins games. He wins games. And then outside of Michigan, he's probably lost to Georgia, or he's probably lost to, yeah.
So Ryan Day, Big Ten Conference record is 39-3, 2-4 in bowl games, 1-3 in the college football playoffs. He has a 2-6 record against opponents ranked in the top 5 of the coaches poll. So when he has to play a team in the top 5, he's not done so well. So we'll see if this is either way, he's back next year, because I know there's rumors that we were discussing. I think he is back next year because they're like, because even Urban Meyer came out backing him, supporting him. He's like, I have no interest in taking the job away from him. I'm good. So Ryan Day will be back at Ohio State next year for sure.
He should be back.
He will be. They're not going. As we talked, who do you replace him with that's either proven himself, or do you take a flying risk on someone that has a high risk, but high risk, high reward type of situation?
Well, from what all my resources have told me is he loves being a Buckeye. He gets it. He understands. And look, his resume at Ohio State is great. It's absolutely great. Outside of playing the team up north, So, no, I think Ryan Day should be back. We'll see what next year brings. I'm sure he'll be on the hot seat next year because he's doing everything right at Ohio State outside of beating Michigan, which we all know that is a big deal over there. It's a huge deal there. But look, he has to go play Tennessee now in this playoff, in this first round matchup. And Tennessee is going to be a pain in the ass for them.
Yeah, what I read earlier this evening was the code, I think a pre-sale code or something code for tickets for the football game got leaked, and the Tennessee fans jumped all over it and bought up all the tickets. And so they're pleading with Ohio State people are pleading with the fans and students to not sell your tickets to make money because we don't want more orange in the stadium than what they are able to get already. So Tennessee's ready. They're going to come out hungry. Like they're ready and they're eager. It's going to be a fun game between the Buckeyes and the Vols for sure. And especially there in Ohio State. And speaking of Ohio State, did you, not to get political, but did you see what one of the politicians did for the state of Ohio?
No.
He's putting a bill forward saying it's a felony if you plant a flag in the middle of the field at Ohio State's stadium. So, yeah, I laughed at that. So I was like, come on, take it as is when someone does that. But here's the thing. Go ahead.
You know who started that, right?
You're like way back in the day, or like you're talking about when Baker Mayfield did it when
Baker Mayfield.
So my point is, I laugh about it, but all I have to say is don't lose your rival game at home to the team. That's plain and simple. So, and I know it's easier said than done, but that's how you eliminate someone coming and plant a flag in the middle of your field is beat their ass in that game.
Yeah, I mean, that's stupid. Yeah, I mean, just win the game. I'm sure if Iowa were to beat Ohio State at Ohio Stadium, they wouldn't go do that. I get it, but at the same time, like, hey, it's college sports. I mean, let these kids be kids. It's not a big deal. But what I would like to talk about, as much as we're enjoying what we feel are the proper picks, and for the most part, proper matchups, even though we don't quite agree, but they're not bad. But how about Oregon, the Oregon Ducks, getting jobbed? They're the number one team in the country, and they're getting jobbed. Their path to the final as the best team in the country is the hardest. They could have laid down. They could have laid down in the second half of the Big Ten championship game and gotten Penn State's path, so to speak. They still would have maybe faced a Georgia team with a backup quarterback or Notre Dame, but their first game is going to have to be the winner of Ohio State and Tennessee. And you're supposed to be the number one team in the country. Like, you feel like you should have arguably the easiest path, so to speak. And I feel like they're getting the hardest. I think Penn State's getting the easiest. What do you think, Mark?
So, yeah, I know that's always been a discussion with, what's the point of playing a conference game? You have more to lose potentially on sitting. So going with, let's say, all right, Oregon were to lay down and lost, wink, wink to Penn State, then looking at how they have the teams, honestly, I think the only thing that changes is Oregon would probably get the 5 spot, then Texas gets the 6 spot. And so Oregon's hosting Clemson, and Texas is hosting the Pony Express. So I think that's something that really changes. So then Oregon will get Clemson, then we'll go play Arizona State. So,
much easier.
Which is an easier path to start off with because
for Oregon, much easier. 10 times easier. Are you kidding me?
So, but if you're a number one team, you take it on and prove that that's why you're the number one team.
Wait, hold on. But Mark, is it the whole thing of, hey, we just went through a gauntlet of a season. We just went through an entire year that in years past, if we finished as the number one team, even back before the 4-team playoff, even back before the BCS, even back before that, if you're the number one team, you're either playing one more game to say you're the national champion, or the BCS at least would put you in an algorithm, so to speak, where the quote unquote second best team would play you for the national championship, and it would be in the Rose Bowl or the Sugar Bowl or the Fiesta Bowl or some one of these bowls, right? Or you'd be in the 4-team playoff, which you would definitely be in, and you would presumably have, you'd be number one playing number 4, which number 4 would either be the little guy in or the team bitching to get in, saying like, hey, we deserve it. And it would be like 3 to 5 teams vying for it. And based off an algorithm, one team would get it. And that was your first round opponent. You know, I love what the 12-team playoff has done. It has done so much. It has everyone talking about it. It's great. It's awesome. But the number one team in the country has absolutely the hardest path. And you can't disagree with me.
I wasn't disagreeing with you. Yeah, because Tennessee and Ohio State are very solid teams. And so that would be a game you would think would happen in the championship or the semifinals, not in the quarterfinals.
Solid teams. Ohio State played Oregon in week 4 or 5, I think it is what it was. And Oregon won by 2 in Oregon. You know, so there's a chance they have to play them again in round 2 at a neutral site.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the joy of the playoff format now, right? That's what we're enjoying. So if you look at if you went back to the 14 playoff, Oregon wins. They're obviously in there. Tennessee wouldn't be in it, and Ohio State wouldn't be in it. The playoffs if it was based off the 4 teams. So, but yes, in reality, Oregon being the number 1 team drew the short end of the straw, having to face the winner out of those 2 schools in the next round at a neutral site. So, what I'm getting at is Oregon's going to come ready to play whoever it is. It's going to be a fun game to watch them take on, whether it's the Buckeyes again for the second time this season or Tennessee.
Yeah, and their reward is going to be either Texas, Clemson, or Arizona State.
But, well, going back, so Texas drew Clemson only because Clemson knocked off SMU in the ACC championship game, which I don't know what would happen because they would have gone to the overtime. So I can't say SMU would pull it off in overtime, but SMU was dumb on their part to kick off at the end of the game there to give them a shot to run the ball back on the kickoff and get in field goal range and do all that stuff. But Texas doesn't impress me. I mean, they're a good team. I'm not taking that away. But Clemson, I know they got spanked early in the year against Georgia, but that was the beginning of the season. They've been able to work some stuff out. I do think Texas does knock off Clemson. And then for the Sun Devils, they've been a fun team to watch. So with that offense they got moving, their running back is awesome. And then their quarterback, who they picked up in the transfer portal from Michigan State, has been solid this year for them. So I think Arizona State and whoever they play, whether it's Texas or Clemson, is going to be a fun match. And so going back to Oregon, as I said, it's going to be a tough path for them to the final game because of having to play Tennessee or Ohio State. Then turning around and having to go play Texas, who's going to be a solid team from top to bottom. Arizona State has been good all year. And then Clemson, it's hard to know what they're made of. They're capable of playing well, but sometimes they're like, what are they doing? So it's going to be an interesting, I guess, path and way of just how it all plays out in the end for those schools and going against I would think Oregon being the number one team, I know they're almost being punished for being the number one team in a way, but I mean, but they have a Heisman candidate quarterback playing for them, and so let's see what they're made of when they play in 2 weeks, I think, so.
Yeah. No, I like all 12 teams. For the most part, I'm pretty satisfied, I guess, where they're all put. I feel bad for Oregon. I really do. But for the most part, I think pretty much everyone else got put in a good spot. Me being a Notre Dame homer, I really felt we should have been more in Penn State's spot. I figured Texas would be where they were. But at the end of the day, look, you have to go out and win the game, and it's survive in advance. And that's it, and I'm actually very happy with everything. I'm ready for it to go. I'm ready for it to kick off.
Yeah, so a week away tomorrow from the first game, but we have Army-Navy this weekend. That'll be a fun rival game to watch between those two schools. What I say is, I guess, and I think it just goes back to Notre Dame. Like you said, they should probably have been where Penn State's at, and I think we kind of touched on it earlier, is because the committee rewarded Penn State for having to play that extra game. That's probably why they're in the 6th spot versus Notre Dame, who didn't play a conference championship game. But I do think Notre Dame is the better team than Penn State overall, based off how Penn State's played this year. But that's how they chose to draw the seeding, whether we agree with it or not. But overall, like I said, going back to, I agree with all the teams in there. So I'm not, but like I said, going with who gets what spot. And I know when you win the championship game, your conference overall, you get the first round bye. So, and that's why Notre Dame's not in there, because they didn't have a conference championship game. But I do think they should have been at least a 6th spot. 5 would have been ideal, but that realistically wasn't going to happen since they didn't play the conference championship game. So,
at the end of the day, they are where they are. They're going to be ready to play. And look, how fitting is this? And I'm not saying, but I'm saying, I don't know if this was any part of the motivation from the committee, but when we all look at college football in the USA, in America, one of the first things we think about is Notre Dame. And the very first thing...
You might, I don't.
Well, because you're a millennial.
No, we're not doing that. Absolutely not. I don't identify as a millennial.
All right. But what I'm saying is, the very first college football game of 2024 is going to be in South Bend, Indiana on a Friday night. And all the eyes of the world are going to be in South Bend, Indiana. It's not going to be on the next day where there's 3 or 4 games or whatnot. It's all going to be at Notre Dame. And hey, quite fitting for it to happen that way, that the biggest, the baddest, the coolest, the everything college football program in all the land with the gold helmets, it's going to be at Notre Dame. So for me, all right, fine. They didn't get quite the seating they needed, but it's all right. They're going to be just fine.
They're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So, besides their one loss to Northern Illinois. So I can't say much. My school I can't say never. I'm very happy for my school, Sam Houston State. Second year up at the FBS and becoming bowl eligible. They're playing the New Orleans Bowl against Georgia Southern. So go Bearcats, eat them up.
That's right.
I'm very happy for my school.
Hey, go Bearcats. Hey, go Cats. Go Cats.
Yes, they're looking for a new coach because their coach left to go be the head coach at Temple. I'm happy for Keller. best of luck there, and go win big there at Temple University. Since we have someone here who doesn't know sports, Ryan the Wanderer, I'm going to ask you, since you really don't know much about these football teams other than what you heard us discussing, I'm going to ask you, who do you think is going to win? And just say who you think, because I'm curious to see.
I couldn't even guess, honestly.
I'm going to tell you who the schools are. So, all right. So first round, Clemson or Texas?
I'll take Texas.
All right. He took Texas over Clemson.
All right.
Next, Tennessee or Ohio State?
Ohio.
Ohio State. Okay. SMU or Penn State?
Penn.
Penn State. All right. And then Indiana or Notre Dame?
Indiana, only to piss off George.
Got him. All right. So you took Texas. So now they play Arizona State. Texas, Arizona State.
I'm from Texas. I'm going to choose Texas.
Okay. So you picked Ohio State. So they play Oregon.
Oregon.
All right. You took the Ducks. You said you took Penn State. So they play Boise State now.
I don't know. I'll stay Penn State still.
Penn State. And then just to piss off George, you took the Hoosiers over your Irish. So Indiana or Georgia?
Georgia.
All right. So now we go back to the semifinals. You have Oregon and Texas.
Texas.
Texas going to the finals, playing Penn State or Georgia.
Georgia.
So we would have Texas and Georgia for the fourth.
So Ryan here, Ryan the Wanderer picks the SEC championship.
Ryan, were you aware that Texas and Georgia have already played each other twice this season?
And who won?
Georgia both times. So you're saying we're going to have the third time of them playing each other is what he's projecting. I don't think anybody wants to see that, to be honest. So that'd be funny, but it could happen. I don't think it will happen, but it could happen, and I'll be
It's not gonna happen.
because the Irish Rudy is going to come onto the field.
Are you kidding me? Rudy is coming. Rudy Rudiger is coming. He's coming back. It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be. You're gonna love it.
Rudy, wearing his Letterman jacket, his nice big old Letterman jacket. So, but but yeah, so that was picks from Ron the Wanderer, who has no, I'll say he knows football, but not to what we've been talking about. He barely knows. Oh, here you might want to mute or turn the volume down on this part, but here we go. So anyway, that's again how to ruin a night. Yeah, so we I can't wait for next Friday, as George just is looking forward to, and going with that you are a diehard Notre Dame fan, and they make it to the championship game. Are you going?
Wait, if the Irish get to the finals,
The actual championship game. Would you go? Would not in the scenario, oh, someone gave me a free ticket, everything is covered. Would you be willing to spend whatever your price range is to go to the actual championship game?
oh hell yes, hell yes, I will be there. I'm going to be there. It's going to be awesome. And look, hey, Irish fans, we're going to get there. All right. We have an Indiana team that is hungry, but they have to come to our house. We have a Georgia team that the common opponent we played was Georgia Tech, that we rolled. We rolled. And we're going to go play Georgia, with a backup quarterback? No. We're coming after them. We're going to come after Oregon. We're going to come after Texas. It's going to be beautiful. I love it. College football is great.
Georgia Greek is red if you can't tell people. He's also been very much involved. He's having a good time.
Involved.
Yes, involved. What you got, Ryan the Wonder? Are you showing me Notre Dame facts? What are we looking at here?
The last time.
Defeated what? That they won a championship game? Or national? Yeah, it's been forever.
We don't.
Yeah. So
So Ryan's being a wise ass here. He's getting involved now.
yes, he's very much getting involved with this, which is great. Love the interaction.
So, okay. So now we have some great things coming up for all of our listeners and for all of our fans. Obviously, between the end of the college football season and bowl season, so to speak, there's a little bit of a gap, and we've mentioned this before. We will have a Christmas movie playoff show, and it's gonna be great.
It's going to be a fun time doing that one, George. Yes, we are doing a Christmas episode of the best Christmas movie, subjective to what should be in and whatnot and how it's been seated. Some people don't give me inputs other than, hey, you missed this movie. Not to name names, George. But it's all fun and games. It's been fun. So that's why we're doing it. Looking forward to it, yes. So we're round 2 right now. We're about to get to the quarterfinals and then semifinals and then the final. And so that episode will be done here soon, before Christmas. That way it's out for everyone to take a listen to. And let's get ready for the first playoff game next week, George. So
Love it. Love all the listeners. Let's get ready for the Christmas showdown. It's going to be awesome. We love you guys. It's all I got. Mark, take it away.
yeah, I'll close this out. So with that, enjoy the games next week and this weekend that are being played. As always, send anything over to attheglasspodcast@gmail.com. I'm your host, Marky Mark, with George DeGreek. Until then, stay sipping. If you're involved, be safe, and we'll talk soon. Have a good one.